Welcome to Football Gameplan's FCS Kickoff presented by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and welcome to our 2016 Colonial Athletic Association season preview. The CAA is one of the strongest and deepest conferences in the FCS. Even the teams that are on the lower end of the standings tend to give out-of-conference opponents fits each and every Saturday. So needless to say that all eyes will be glued to the CAA this year from start to finish. Let's kick off our preview by taking a look at some of the top storylines to follow as we enter the 2016 season. Despite finishing with a 1-10 record last year, the Rhode Island Rams are heading in the right direction. I like what I saw last season from the Rams. I was at the Governor's Cup versus Brown. I came away very impressed with the talent on both sides of the ball. Rhode Island was a very young team last year that made significant strides toward the end of the season. Couple that with an impressive recruiting haul, and you can understand the excitement that's coming out of Kingston this summer. You can't win the CAA if you can't run the football. This is a conference that's built on the ability to control the line of scrimmage. You just look at last year's statistics and you'll have 5 teams that finished with over 2,000 yards on the ground. Towson was close with over 1,800, and only one of those 5 teams, Delaware, had a losing record. So not only do you have to be able to run in order to win, but defensively you better be able to stop the run as well. Can the Albany Great Danes and Elon Phoenix find consistent offense this year? That's the biggest question facing those two teams this season. Both teams weren't particularly strong in either area last year. Both teams are good enough defensively to win games, and if their offense didn't put them in bad situations, they would have had a lot better success last year. I think you'll see marked improvement this season on the offensive side for both teams. Can William & Mary finally figure out the Richmond Spiders? These two teams played in 2 epic games last season, one on November 21st, in which the Tribe lost 20-9, and 2 weeks later, another Tribe lost 48-13. The latter occurred in the FCS playoffs. So these are 2 very good football teams that meet again at the end of the season on November 19th, and I'm pretty sure this game is circled and probably has been since the end of last season. And finally, are the Blue Hens ready for a resurgence? It's been a while since Delaware has been to the playoffs, 2010 to be exact. It also has been 6 years since they finished above 5th in the rankings in the CAA. However, this year could put an end to that as the Blue Hens return a veteran squad and have put together some strong recruiting classes. If their passing game can get up to speed, watch out for the Blue Hens. We've already mentioned the big game between Richmond and William & Mary on November 19th, so let's take a look at some of the other big games this season on the CAA schedule. September 1st has a really good matchup to open up the season between Stony Brook and North Dakota. The Fighting Hawks travel to Long Island to face a team that's similar in style in the Seawolves. There'll be 2 outstanding tailbacks going toe-to-toe in Stony's Stacy Bedell and North Dakota's John Santiago. I believe this will be a very physical game. Impressive out-of-conference slate on September 10th as Towson plays host to St. Francis, who looks like a strong contender for the NEC crown this year, and Villanova hosts Lehigh, who will be traveling with their point-a-minute offense, and New Hampshire hosts Holy Cross, who's armed with one of the best quarterbacks and offensive lines in the FCS. These are all big out-of-conference matchups that help strengthen the at-large bids come playoff time. September 16th, Rhode Island travels to Harvard to take on the Crimson, and you want to talk about a litmus test, here's one for you. The Rams can get a very early barometer of where they've come as a football team as they face one of the perennial powers in the FCS. Richmond and Colgate face off on September 24th, and I talked about this one in the Patriot League preview, and I'll say it again. This will have a playoff type feel to the ball game as both teams have Frisco type talent and aspirations. And finally, October 1st, Delaware travels to James Madison in another litmus test type game. The Blue Hens should have a strong defense this season and will be facing one of the best offenses in the conference in the Dukes. Now, will the Delaware Blue Hens offense be the reason why they win or the reason why they lose? We shall see. So let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll hand out some CAA superlatives.
The FCS, in my mind, is the greatest level of football in the country. It doesn't necessarily always have the resources, the glitz, the glamour of the FBS level, but the FCS is a level that I think plays outstanding football. It's extremely competitive. It plays to a national champion at the end in a tournament format, and I think the experience of aiming for that championship is something that you can't get on any other level.
New York City is the largest market for broadcast media. It's the epicenter for the TV and radio industry. If you ever had a dream of working in the thrilling broadcast world, then make it a reality by going to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. CSB has helped numerous people get a job with hands-on training and a learn-by-doing mentality. You will learn all of the high-tech equipment in the TV and radio studios. From hosting your own radio show, to being a news or sports anchor, operating a camera in the TV studio, or editing audio and video, the choice is yours. Graduates from CSB have gone on to work at some of the major companies in the industry. To get more information, call 1-800-TV-RADIO or check us out at gocsb.com. Your road to success starts here at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Welcome back to the FCS Kickoff, and we're just getting things rolling here as we're previewing the Colonial Athletic Association, and we will start this segment off by unveiling our 2016 preseason All-CAA squad. Starting with the offense, there are some explosive playmakers on this list. Running back Kendall Anderson finished second in the CAA in rushing last year with just over 1,400 yards, scoring 16 rushing touchdowns as well. Darius Victor has been a stud since his freshman season at Towson, and Victor also reached pay dirt 15 times last year. Richmond's Brian Brown was on the receiving end of 6 of quarterback Kyle Luletta's conference-leading 19 touchdown passes, and along the offensive line, Timon Paris out of Stony Brook at 6'5", 310 is what they would call a big dancing bear. Stoney does an excellent job in getting movement up front, and Paris is a big reason why. James Madison's Mitch Kirsch is another talented CAA offensive lineman who is also a preseason football game plan FCS All-American. Look for him to close out his senior season in a big way. Defensively, the defensive line stands out as the strength of this group. Now, granted, all of these guys here on this defensive list are outstanding, but with this defensive line, I can win a lot of games. Both Tano Pasagnan of Villanova and Patrick Ricard of Maine may be the two functionally strong defensive linemen in the country. Defensive end Aaron Thompson out of Stony Brook should see even more attention without the services of Victor Ochi on the other side. Thompson was actually third in the CAA last season with 8.5 sacks. Second in sacks was linebacker Andrew Ankara out of James Madison with 10.5, and Ankara also had 11 TFLs. 2 years ago, I was at the Delaware Towson game, and Charles Bell was a true freshman that was rotating in and out on defense, and he stood out. He followed that up with an impressive sophomore season that saw him accumulate 96 tackles for the Blue Hens. I think he's going to be a star this season. I know I just made the case for the defensive line being the strongest of the group, but in the secondary, you have 3 football game plan preseason All-Americans in Casey DeAndre of New Hampshire, David Jones of Richmond, and Taylor Reynolds of James Madison. 3 ball hawks with the ability to play anywhere in the secondary. Also, Villanova's Malik Reeves may be the best man-to-man defender in the FCS. So needless to say, there won't be many points scored facing this defensive All-CAA squad. The William and Mary tribe dominate the list of All-CAA specialists. The lone outsider is kickoff returner Dalton Crossan of New Hampshire. Now, Crossan averaged 25 yards per kickoff return with a touchdown. He also doubles as the starting tailback for the Wildcats. You can also make a case for Dion Alston of Albany. The 5'7", 165-pound South Jersey native broke Albany's single-season record for kickoff returns, averaging 22 yards per return, bringing one back for a touchdown. Punt returner Devontae Detman of William & Mary averaged an impressive 16.4 yards per punt return as a sophomore with a long return of 70. We'll take a quick break and be back with more of our CAA Conference Superlatives. Don't forget to check out and grab your copy of our 2 newly released books, Football: A Love Story and What Did Football Teach Me? These books feature over 100 stories from current and former coaches, players, executives, and entertainers from across the football landscape, describing what got them involved in the game, what they love about it, and what life lessons the game taught them. You can find your copy or order your copy from our website at footballgameplan.com/books.
For me, I think the biggest thing that football taught me was how to overcome adversity.
At some point in your life, you're going to have some tough times.
You have to have that next play mentality.
That cohesiveness and that working together, that's really something special that you can't get in a lot of other areas.
When you practice that and you live that in other phases of your life, it becomes second nature because all you know how to do is fight.
It's not an easy game. If it were easy, everyone would do it.
You start to appreciate the smaller contributions that people make. You don't just look at the big one because you knew it took 6 or 7 other guys who are unsung.
And you can't take shortcuts and be successful.
Doing what they do to make it possible for the guy getting the press clippings or whatever it might be.
In this game, whether it's as a coach or a player.
So I would certainly say that you definitely got a very quick lesson in how to overcome adversity playing football.
Welcome back to the FCS Kickoff presented by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and we've already announced the preseason All-CAA team. Now it's time to go even deeper with conference superlatives and hand out the best of by position, starting with the team that has the best group of quarterbacks in the CAA. I think it's a tie between the Richmond Spiders and William & Mary Tribe. Both teams not only have excellent starters in Kyle Luletta and Steve Cluley respectively, but excellent depth behind them as well. Spiders senior quarterback David Brodus is more than capable of stepping in and maintaining the offensive output. Now the Tribe's backup Timon McKee, a sophomore, is next in line to take over once Cluley graduates. And also don't sleep on redshirt freshman Brandon Battle. The 6'3", 190-pound Battle was an outstanding prospect coming out of North Point High School in Maryland. The best running back core goes to 3 different teams: Delaware, Stony Brook, and James Madison. Starting with the Blue Hens, they have a legitimate 4-headed monster in Thomas Jefferson, Kareem Williams, Jalen Randolph, and Wes Hills. The latter 2 are coming off season-ending injuries, and the former 2 took over for them and went on to combine for nearly 1,600 yards rushing. Stony Brook lost their talented tailback Stacy Bedell after the 3rd game of the season, and Donald Leontine stepped up and into the lineup, running for over 700 yards at 4.5 yards a carry. Now that Bedell is healthy, the Seawolves have a potent 1-2 punch. And finally, James Madison's Carton Johnson and Khalid Abdullah finished 4th and 5th in rushing yards in the CAA. The duo combined for over 2,000 yards and 23 rushing touchdowns. Keep an eye on sophomore Trey Sharp, who only played in 4 games last year as a true freshman, but wowed with a 64-yard run on his first collegiate carry. He'll figure to be in the mix as well this season. Only one team takes home the crown for the best receiving core in the CAA, and that's the Maine Black Bears. The Bears have 2 really good options in Micah Wright and Jordan Dunn. The duo combined for 117 receptions for just over 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns. Despite questionable quarterback play, both Wright and Dunn still found a way to produce. Look for Jared Asuma to have a bigger role this season. The 6'3", 205-pound junior wideout of South Windsor, Connecticut started to come on strong late in the season. The Richmond Spiders boast the best offensive line in the conference. Alex Light, Nicholas Virgos, and Thomas Evans. Those 3 guys helped pave the way for an impressive season in which the Spiders finished 2nd in the CAA in total offense. And there's some very good depth coming in down the pike with guys like Patrick Clybert and Keno Jones. The best defensive line goes to the Stony Brook Seawolves. Usually when you lose a player of the caliber of Victor Ochi, you'd expect a huge drop-off, but not Stony Brook. They are both deep and talented still because of what they do as a staff, recruiting and developing their talent. Defensive end Aaron Thompson production should increase over last season, and look for Osman Kamara to have a breakout year as well, as he was highly impressive last year for Stony. Now the Seawolves also get John Haggard and Humphrey Anu back into the fold. Elon and James Madison share the crown for the best linebacking core in the CAA. The Phoenix returned 2 of the top 3 tacklers in the conference, and Corey Mitchell and John Silas after combining for 220 tackles. James Madison has 2 outstanding second-level defenders in Kyrie Hawkins and Gage Steele. Both guys were all over the field last season, finishing with 88 solo stops. I would say that the tribe of William & Mary has the best secondary in the conference. Yes, they lose an NFL player in safety DeAndre Houston Carson, but they get back an outstanding coverman in Aaron Swinton, who was sidelined with a season-ending injury after the first game. Teaming him back up with Trey Reed and Denzel Dykes gives the tribe 3 high-quality cover corners that show the ability to excel in press coverage. Now look for Mike Barter to step up at safety after earning 3 starts last season, so across the board, they will still be a very tough unit. Staying in Williamsburg, Virginia with William & Mary, as they also boast the best special teams unit. We talked earlier about their fabulous punt returner in Devontae Dedman, but it's their kicking game that makes them dangerous in all 3 facets of the game. Punter Hunter Windmuller averaged 43.8 yards a punt, downing 12 inside the 20, 14 of which were over 50 yards. Kicker Nick Dorker boomed a long field goal to 51 yards and went 21 of 25 on his attempts. And Dorker is also a football game plan preseason FCS All-American. The CAA had 2 players selected in the 2016 NFL Draft. William & Mary's DeAndre Houston Carson was taken in the 6th round by the Chicago Bears, and Maine's defensive lineman Trevor Bates was selected in the 7th round by the Indianapolis Colts. Now this year, we may see a few more get their name called in late April, so here's an early list of the guys you want to keep an eye on for the 2017 NFL Draft. There's a good mix of prospects here, from skill players to specialists. Along the line of scrimmages, some tremendous talent with offensive lineman Mitch Kirsch of James Madison and defensive lineman Tano Pisagnon of Villanova and Patrick Ricard of Maine. The NFL is all about protecting the quarterback and getting after the quarterback, and these 3 guys definitely exemplify that thought process. So look for both Ricard and Pisagnon to get some all-star game consideration. Brian Brown should once again put up impressive numbers as the top option for the Spiders. And I'm a big fan of running back Darius Victor of Towson. The 5'8", 210-pound Victor has put together a very impressive Tigers career and is a Ray Rice clone. He has good power and balance and shows the ability to rip off long runs. Victor backed up Ravens' Terrence West as a true freshman and still rushed for 629 yards, averaging 6.4 yards a carry. Since then, he's posted back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons and also scored 27 rushing touchdowns. Last year versus East Carolina, Victor carried the football 28 times for 130 yards. So he's a proven commodity that should test very well when scouts come down to Maryland. We'll take a break and come back to hand out predictions as we wrap up our 2016 Colonial Athletic Association season preview.
The Connecticut School of Broadcasting can help you reach the next level in the amazing world of broadcast and entertainment media.
I've mentored several interns here at the Covino and Rich Show at SiriusXM, and the ones from CSB always stand out to me. They have a knowledge of the equipment, knowledge of editing, what it's like to be in a studio, and that always eliminates a huge learning curve.
Their professional studios give students a hands-on, learn-by-doing approach using equipment used in actual radio stations and TV studios. Visit our website at gocsb.com or call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Start today.
The unique thing about the FCS is if it puts you in a position where if you win, you can keep playing. that it's competitive. It is Division I football, and it's also been able to cross conferences. I think within our league we play alongside the Ivy League, alongside the CAA, alongside the NEC, and it really gives you an opportunity each and every Saturday to prove yourself. The other thing is that these schools within this league are putting people out that are student athletes, that they'll achieve one of the better educations in the country, biased here at Bucknell. But we're also in a position where we can participate and play against some of the FBS schools. Last year we played against Army, and a couple years we played against Temple. To be able to judge yourself in terms of what you've done with your program, what you've done with your team against those teams that are, you know, the more preeminent teams in the country. And that I think we all have to realize that a football field, when it comes down to it, it's 53.3 yards wide and 120 yards long. Regardless of where you're playing, that's the field. And that's what's exciting about college football, that you when you get out there on a Saturday, and I keep telling my team, and I've always said this to my teams, they might be yelling, all right, regardless of who they're yelling for, make sure that you know they're yelling for you.
Welcome back to the FCS Kickoff, as we have reached prediction time for the very tough Colonial Athletic Association. Let's start with the Albany Great Danes at number 12. I got to watch Albany live last year versus Holy Cross, and I was very impressed with both sides of the line of scrimmage. Now, defensively, they do lose Samuel Gray, but with 8 starters returning on that side of the ball, I think they'll be able to do just fine, especially with linebacker Julian Cox, who was the CAA's co-defensive player of the year. Offensively, everyone returns, but they must get more production out of the passing game. Once they settle in on a quarterback, I think they can start building that continuity. Return man Dion Alston, who also played running back last year, will now be moved to the slot as a receiver to help jumpstart the Great Danes offense. I think this team is about a year away from making an even bigger jump in the conference. Next are the Elon Phoenix, and Elon was very good defensively, but to put it nicely, they weren't so good offensively. The same looks to be true this year, as Elon comes into 2016 very strong at linebacker and in the secondary. I also think they'll be vastly improved along the offensive line. Now, where you still have the questions are at quarterback and in the backfield. Those are the 2 spots where the Phoenix have to get better. I actually like what they have on the flanks at wide receiver. I was at the Stony Brook game last year, and the receivers found themselves getting open all day. And when the quarterback was able to connect, they generated big plays. I think what you'll see this year is slight improvement offensively, especially in the passing game, but it'll be their defense that'll keep them out of the CAA cellar. Rhode Island checks in at number 10, and the Rams will be an exciting team to watch in 2016. Running back Harold Cooper, who is a football game plan preseason All-American, is an all-purpose dynamo. The 5'9", 187-pound junior ran for nearly 750 yards last season and is a big part of the Rams' offense. Senior Paul Mraz returns from injury, the quarterback, and I like his moxie, but he has to take better care of the football. The biggest concern defensively for the Rams is their ability to generate pressure. Right now, they do a solid job versus the run and are able to reset the line of scrimmage, but it's not paying off in terms of sacks. The Rams finished dead last in sacks last season with only 9. Now, if they want to climb the CAA standings, that number has to get to at least within the 20s. Rhode Island hasn't had a winning season since 2001, but I do think head coach Jim Fleming has them charging in the right direction. The Maine Black Bears were led by their defense last season. This year, they may have to lean on their offense early on, as they're replacing some big-time contributors defensively. There's enough pieces here for these guys to be much better than the 14 points a game they averaged last year. Whoever gets to start at quarterback, Dan Collins or Drew Belcher, they have, in my opinion, the best core of receivers in the CAA, and running back Nigel Beckford can provide the balance that they need to be successful. Defensively, Patrick Ricard is the only returning star, and he'll have to not only produce, but also provide the leadership on that side of the ball. The reason why I have them at number 9 is that I like the continuity built here with the promotion of former defensive coordinator Jim Haresmiak to head coach. He'll get the defense up to speed, and the offense, I think, will be much improved over last season. Maine would be the type of team that no one will blow out, and they'll be a tough opponent throughout the season. Delaware looks dangerous this year as they land in the number 8 spot. Like I've said before, their running back depth is probably the most impressive in the FCS. The Blue Hens should be able to be amongst the best in the country in that category. Now the question is if they can generate anything in a passing game. You look at both quarterbacks Joe Walker and Blake Rankin, two uniquely different types of quarterbacks. Walker has the running ability while Rankin is more of your traditional pocket passer. Both were ineffective last year and didn't do much to add to this offense. However, both guys look vastly improved in the spring, so that bodes well for them moving forward. Defensively, their linebacking core could have made our list for one of the best in the CAA. Charles Bell leads a group that should be able to stop the run and, most importantly, get off the field. I think this will be a good year for the Blue Hens, one that could see them secure a winning record for the first time since 2013. At number 7 are the Stony Brook Seawolves, and we know the foundation in which they are built, run game and defense, both of which should be strong once again this season. Like Delaware, Stony has to develop a level of consistency in their passing game. Last year, the Seawolves finished near the bottom in passing efficiency. Quarterback Joe Carbone has to raise his level of play in order to help this offense become much more complete. The Seawolves are really good enough to rely solely on their ground game and defense, which is why I have them at number 7. But I just can't trust their passing game right now, and we'll have to take a wait-and-see approach with Carbone and company, which is also why I have them at number 7. Next up are the Villanova Wildcats, and this will be the final year on the sidelines for coaching legend Andy Talley, who has compiled 221 victories in his 32 years at Villanova, including a national championship in 2009. This year's Wildcat squad will mainly be a defensive one as they lose Walter Payton Award-winning quarterback John Robertson and running back Gary Underwood. Quarterback Zach Bignarczyk, who was co-CAA Rookie of the Year, and running back Javon White will step in as full-time starters, and how quickly can they be consistent will be huge. Like I said before, this team will be a very good defensive one. Linebacker Austin Calitro and defensive lineman Tano Pasagnon will have the Wildcats very solid against the run, and both Malik Reeves and Trey Johnson give them solid cover corners. Do the Wildcats have a magic run to them like their basketball counterparts? In Andy Talley's last season, we'll see probably the most inspired, motivated football team in the conference that will take the field each and every week. The New Hampshire Wildcats slide into the 5th spot. Head coach Sean McDonald always has his team competitive and ready to go. They haven't missed the playoffs since 2003, and this year's team has to replace some key pieces in the secondary, but they should still be strong on the back end thanks to Casey DeAndre. On the offense side of football, they are solid in the running game and also on the flanks. One underrated player that should have a huge impact this year is tight end Jordan Powell. I think his ability to flex out wide will give defenses fits, especially in the red zone. The biggest question, in my opinion, is at quarterback. Senior Adam Reese was asked to manage the offense last year in Sean Goldrich's absence, and he performed admirably. This year, he'll be asked to be a little bit more and bring more to the table. So this team voted him captain. I think that says a lot. So we'll see how his confidence grows game after game. The Wildcats open a brand new stadium this year, and it should be more of the same as they will probably find themselves in the FCS playoffs. New head coach Mike Houston inherits a very solid football team on both sides of the ball. Quietly, he also brought in a damn good recruiting class as well. Houston and James Madison are a perfect fit because he comes from Lenore Ryan and the Citadel, as both programs run the triple option, and the Dukes ran the spread last year, which has some option elements in it. That'll make this transition much easier than it would if it was another coach. And speaking of the talent, the Dukes have arguably the best backfield in the CAA. Very good defensive football team at every level, and a quarterback that was called upon to replace a great quarterback in Vad Lee and perform extremely well. So where are the issues, you ask? I think the biggest concern is on the defensive interior. Last year, the Dukes gave up 4.6 yards a carry and 197 yards a game on the ground. That is where you would like to see them get significantly better. The talent is there for them to do so, and I think this will be one of the stronger teams in the FCS this season. At number 3 are the Towson Tigers. Head coach Rob Ambrose does an outstanding job with the Tigers. They are historically known for being strong on both sides of the line of scrimmage, which is true again this season. They also boast a game breaker in the backfield with Darius Victor. They were good defensively as a collective group in 2015 and did a solid job moving the football on the ground as well. Where they lacked was in the passing game. Too much inconsistency in that area cost them games, i.e. versus Holy Cross. Here's why I like them to surprise this year in the CAA. They picked up a transferring quarterback, Morgan Mihalik, from Oregon, and what he brings to the table is the ability to threaten the defense with his running ability, which also eases things up for Victor, and he is also an excellent passer. Mihalik has the ability to attack anywhere on the football field with his arm. This will be the first time Towson has had a true threat at quarterback, and you combine that with their running game and defense, and the Tigers could challenge for the CAA crown. Keep an eye on September 3rd as they face South Florida. This could be one of the first FCS versus FBS upsets. William and Mary are heading into 2016 brimming with confidence after coming off a 9-4 season last year. The Tribe have a good quarterback, running back, and receivers in place operating behind a very good offensive line that only allowed 14 sacks last season. Defensively, they are very good and will be even better this year despite losing DeAndre Houston Carson in the secondary. Special teams is the best in the CAA in all 3 facets: kicking, punting, and also the return game. So where's the issue, you ask? To be honest, I think it all comes down to focus and consistency. And can they beat Richmond? Focus will allow them to avoid unnecessary slip-ups versus teams they are supposed to beat. Consistency will help them remain good at what they're good at, which should lead them to an end-of-the-season showdown versus the Spiders. If they can get over that mental hurdle, there is no telling how far the Tribe can go this season, which would be head coach Jimmy Laycock's 37th year at the helm. And finally, at number 1 are the Richmond Spiders, who made a deep run in the FCS playoffs last season. This was a football team that jumped out at you early and often. The Spiders did a great job sustaining drives and ending them with touchdowns. Now defensively, they excelled at taking the ball away, 22 interceptions and 8 fumble recoveries, which had them number 1 in the CAA in turnover differential. Head coach Danny Rocco's main challenge is to find a running back after losing 1,500-yard rusher in Jacoby Green. Keep an eye on TJ Moon as he'll get the first crack at the starting job. What Coach Rocco doesn't have to worry about is his passing game, as Kyle Loletta is back in the fold along with wide receiver Brian Brown. The schedule is a challenging one that opens up versus the Virginia Cavaliers, and there's a ton of speed and athleticism on both sides of the ball once again for Richmond, and last year gave them confidence. This year they'll look to build on that as they move forward.
No, I think the FCS is really, when you look at it, it's the perfect model for football. Okay, in that as a coach, number 1, you deal with Division I, it's great. You deal with a high level of athlete. In our case, you deal with a high level of student. It's extremely competitive football. It's a great environment, but it's also doesn't have some of the trappings that the bigger levels have as far as the business and the money of things. But you know, it's pure football. And as a coach, that's what I like is you know, it's about the football. And you know, I think the way we determine our champion is the best playoff system in all of sports. And I think that you can never argue with who the national champion is at the FCS level. And it's just top to bottom the most competitive bracket of playoff sports there is in any of the sports. So you know, if you like the action, I think the quality of play is extremely high. I think the quality of person is extremely high. I think there's some great coaches at our level, and it's attainable to fans too. It's also, you know, you come to an FCS game, you have a little bit more of a close experience to the players. You know, and in our case, the players meet the people in the town. It's right there. They're not kind of like these pros in waiting. You know, you can reach out, you can touch them, you can meet the coaches, you can do that stuff. It's just enjoyable football at a real high level still.
So that's it for our 2016 Colonial Athletic Association season preview. Be sure to check out our other FCS season previews on our website at footballgameplan.com. FCS Kickoff. Make sure to check out the FCS Opening Drive radio show every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time with host Luke Diamond and myself. You can download the app for free on Google Play and also on iTunes. The call-in number is located on the screen right now and also where you can listen online. And be sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts. Also check out the website at footballgameplan.com/FCS Kickoff.